we're having some technical difficulties.
You sounded really good though, Linda.
Yeah, our iPad was updating and then it wouldn't let us live stream it. Here, I think we're ready to go.
All right. Let's call this meeting to order. On April 20th, 2021 at 6:30. Roll call, pledge of allegiance, please. Having a brain cramp. Let me turn that off. And roll call, please.
Mayor Mahoney.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ott.
Here.
Trustee Antonopoulos.
Here.
Trustee Kimberly.
Here.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Here.
Trustee Westcott.
Here.
Trustee White.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Can we, so I'm sorry.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, but we had one, Chris Sanchez, is he on? We sent an email to you guys that he requested an addition. It's for, gosh, Steve, do you have that? Sorry, I should have printed it out. Hang on. We need to do an agreement with Castle Rock, and I believe the amount is $85,000.
It was for procurement of 250 acre feet of augmentation water from the town of Castle Rock. That's based on our 2021 water lease agreement.
Okay, so I amend my motion to approve the agenda with the addition of action item 8F, the lease with Castle Rock for augmentation water in 250 acre feet.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Ott.
Yes?
Trustee White. Trustee Antonopoulos.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, did we have any audience business? Any questions sent in?
We did not. Let me just make sure we have no other attendees. Hold on. We should be good.
Okay. All right, the next item is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda is the payment approval report in the amount of $200,349.24, as well as the April 6th, 2021 minutes. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda with the addition of action item 8F, the Castle Rock lease agreement for 250 acre feet of augmentation water.
Friendly amendment, that's not going to, is that going to be on the consent agenda? We put it on as an action item.
Yeah.
So just delete that.
Correct.
I'll
No,
second
you're
that.
just approving the consent agenda.
Okay. I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
And I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please.
Thank you. Trustee Antonopoulos.
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes,
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Thank you.
and motion carries. All right, next item is the financial update. The floor is yours.
That's me. Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees. Before you tonight, you have the March financial statements, which is typically a quarter of the year has gone by. And I also prepared a financial update, which is attached, which I tried to do a focus this time on the stimulus monies that may be coming our way and how we need to start planning for that money and coming up with some ideas of how to best invest that money back into the town. And I think those discussions need to start sooner rather than later, and you know, we can decide how to do those discussions, you know, with us as staff and the board, and what direction you want us to go in. But I do believe we really should start thinking about ways to invest that money back into the town. So do you have any questions first about the financial statements? I will go into an in-depth analysis of the statements at the May meeting. I don't have all of the information in for the first quarter yet. I'm missing the March sales tax numbers. And once those are in May, I'll be able to do a quarterly update on the financial statements in particular. So any questions on the financial statements at this point?
Trustee Jeffrey?
No, sir. No, ma'am. Thank you.
Trustee Ott?
No, thank you.
Trustee Kimmerly?
Nothing.
Trustee White? Trustee Westcott?
No, thank you.
Trustee Antonopoulos?
No, thank you.
Okay, and I have nothing. Thank you very much.
Okay. And then if you have any questions about the financial update I just tried to do a little background on the coronavirus and let you know where we are with the CVRF funding. We have about $20,000 remaining in that, of that money, which has to be spent by the end of this year. It was carried over until December 31st of 2021. Again, we have about $20,000 left. I do want to note, I mentioned it in my AIS, that I was approached by a member of the senior organization who had heard that we did have some money available. And so I did create based on Brighton's form that they had used, another round of grants, which would be focused on nonprofits and community organizations. And so if you approve that grant process, we would open it up, put it in the newsletter, put it on the website. The seniors are already eager to apply for the grant. I guess the only question is I arbitrarily set it at $1,000. If you all direct me to do a different amount than that, I'm totally, can put that amount at whatever you deem appropriate. So I have been talking to them, and they seem very excited to be able to have access to some of those funds. So that's the CVR funds. On the American Rescue Plan, that money should be arriving. A portion of it, it comes in two portions, and the first should come within 60 days of the date of the signing, which was on March 11th. So that's rapidly approaching mid-May. We should be seeing some of that revenue, half of that revenue coming. And that's, it doesn't need to be spent until 2024, but it's never too early to start trying to come up with ideas of how to best implement that money, make it, stretch it as far as you can by, getting other grants and working with other municipalities or the school district or things like that, partnering up to make the money go further and to have a greater impact on the town. And last but not least, the state did overestimate their budget shortfalls, and so they are going to be doing some stimulus. I don't know how that's going to affect the town, if at all. I do know that CML has recommended increasing the funding back to DOLA for the energy impact grants, and so that could be another thing that we would look into in order to do some projects, is to tap into some of those granting opportunities as well. So.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's something I really think the board would be interested. I'm not really sure how we're looking for the next meeting, but I think it would be something to have on the discussion. I don't think anybody would have any problem with that. To definitely start lining out something. If you could bring us something, give us ideas, from where your standpoint. And I think it would be beneficial to us to, like you said, get an early jump on it, so we know, at least have a direction. So I think that's a great idea. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Turn your microphone on.
At this point, I would like to see you just not make a limit on the grants and see how many applicants we get, because I really don't want to send any money back to Weld County or the state. So if we only get 5 applicants, maybe we can up the grant. I don't have a problem with that. I'd rather spend the money in Loch Buoy than send it back to the county or the state. I think everybody else feels the same way too. You know, apply it here, don't apply it somewhere else. So at this point, I would like to just take not mention a cap and see what we want, see where we wind up for applicants. Because there can't be that many nonprofits in Loch Buoy.
Well,
If
that's,
there are 20, then it's $1,000 a piece, but if they're not, we can maybe give a little bit more. And like I said, I'd much rather see it go into Loch Buoy than somewhere else.
well, and that's kind of what I was leaning towards for the next meeting, is have this under a discussion, and we definitely need those ideas and those things brought up, and, you know, giving her direction with that funding.
So all I was saying was taking off the $1,000 cap at this point.
Yeah.
See where we wind up.
I do think it is a good idea to give them some sort of an idea of what they can apply for. I mean, I don't think any one organization is going to come in and say, okay, we want $20,000. So I do think it's better to have some sort of parameters. I can word it, you know, based on the number of applications we have. I do think we still have a few items that we are trying to pursue with that $20,000. One being the ticketless, our contactless ticket system that the police department is pursuing. So I do think we still have some staff identified uses for those funds. So I would like to say, you know, maybe up to 10,000 of that remaining 20,000 can be granted. And that at least gives a parameter of some sort.
That's fine. Just so we can leave it.
Okay,
When it does come around to awarding the grants, we have some room to wiggle if we want to.
okay.
Well, my question is, are you already putting that number out there, or?
This has not gone out anywhere yet. I was wanting to get direction from you all about, number one, offering this granting cycle, and number two, the amount was a discussion, because I think the seniors are kind of itching to get back in person. And so a lot of the ideas that we had been floating around were ideas to be able to get them to start meeting in person again, i.e. Getting them set up with some PPE and things like that. So I think for them, time is of the essence. So that's why I wanted to get this grant process going as quick as possible and get it in the May newsletter and have it close at the end of May. And so basically have the month of May wherein they can apply. So this would be the meeting that we would need to make that decision to move forward with this process. And the amount, as I say, I can craft that such that we have $10,000 available based on the number of grants we receive. We'll distribute the money,
Works for
something
me.
like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? No. All right. Okay, thank you. All right. Anyone have anything else? Making sure.
May has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, my one question, Denise, was about the deadline. I feel like that once we publicize this, that's going to maybe generate some interest, and I just feel like maybe I'd like to give people a little bit more time. But maybe the plan would be to have this grant cycle go through, and then if there's remaining funds, we can open up a second one. I'm just a little bit worried that that's a really short window to get together a plan. Like for instance, if they wanted to do a facility retrofit, is that enough time to get a bid and to find out all of the information they're going to need in order to submit a grant proposal? If they're not aware right now that there's money that might be available for that. And I don't know that I know enough about grants and grant awards to answer that question. So I'm just going to sort of put that out there as a question that I have.
We could definitely keep it open until mid-June or end of June. Like I mentioned, we don't have to spend this money until December 31st of 2021. So we could keep it open, for essentially 2 months. That would be totally doable.
Is there a way to, I don't know, because your point about the senior center wanting to get back to, to person and helping them to do that, that's a point that I think is one that is worth considering. And I don't want to delay that by saying, well, we can't give you money until for 3 months. But so I guess my question is there a way that we can go ahead and leave that as an open until the money's spent. But then make a decision as things come in and sort of as a first come, first serve. If we get your grant proposal first, we'll consider it. And if it looks good, we'll approve it. And then if, you wait and we're out of money, then we're out of money.
That's similar to how we did the residential grant. It was basically a first come, first serve, up to X amount of dollars that we had committed to it. So if we're going to say we have $10,000 committed to this and it's a first come, first serve basis, we could definitely do the May 31st deadline. And then, if you all decide to extend it because we only got one applicant or what have you, we could do that at that point and extend it and do another round, just as we did with the residential grants. We did do 2 rounds of grant with that one also. So I would suggest along those lines, in light of the seniors' desire to get the money sooner rather than later and to apply for it, to do a first round of grants that's a deadline of May the 31st, up to $10,000. We'll see where we stand at that point, and if we need to do a second round of grants, have it open until June the 30th and spend the rest of it at that point.
Anyone have anything else? No? Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Next item is the lease augmentation water from FRICO. Mr. Jeffers.
Good evening, Mayor Mahoney and trustees.
Can barely hear you.
Excuse me? Okay. So the first agreement that we wanted to talk about tonight is the what we're calling the second lease agreement with FRICO. The town entered into a lease for use of augmentation credits under the FRICO augmentation plan earlier this year. That plan includes the town's well field, and it really just is a very easy way for the town to obtain replacement water to cover the depletions from its wells there in the BB Draw. Chris Sanchez is also here tonight and can answer any questions about the need for this water or the purpose in getting this lease in April. As I understand it, we have some water already available in storage, and this was a good opportunity for the town to get additional water in April to sort of stretch those supplies till later so we can get some additional supplies for the town. And Chris worked out the details of this with the FRICO manager. It's just for 15 acre feet. The water would be used for credit in the month of April. The price is the same as the price of the original lease this year. So the total for this lease would be $7,200. It'd be payable by I think May 20th. I think that this is a good lease for the town, and we recommend that the town approve this lease. And as I said, Chris is here to maybe give a little information or answer any questions. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Again, what we refer to as the FRICO's 84 CW90 water is readily available in the BB Draw, and it's very simple for us to simply plug that water into the town's existing plans. FRICO contacted us because they had some additional supplies available and offered it to the town, and we had recommended that we go ahead and pounce on the opportunity because it was essentially a bird in hand that we could easily utilize to, as Steve said, to push out our other augmentation supplies. So we recommend moving forward with this lease to provide essentially full coverage of the town's augmentation water in the month of April here.
And I will say that the FRICO has already approved this lease, and so we're just here to ask for the town's approval and to get the mayor's signature on the lease if you agree. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. I like this idea, definitely. Questions or comments? Trustee Antonopoulos.
I don't have any, thank you.
Trustee Westcott?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee White?
No, thank you.
Trustee Kumerly?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Ott?
at the price of $480 an acre foot, that's a steal. So this is something we really need to do.
All right. And trustee Jeffrey?
Nothing, thank you.
I have nothing, so thank you. Go ahead.
I move to approve the 2021 water rights lease agreement, second lease between the town of Lockwood and Farmers Reservoir and Irrigation Company.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Ott,
Yes.
trustee Kimberly,
Yes.
trustee White, trustee Westcott,
Yes.
trustee Antonopoulos,
Yes.
trustee Jeffrey,
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes,
Thank you.
and motion carries. All right, the next item is the IGA with the city of Fort Lupton. Mr. Jeffers.
Yeah, so this is an agreement with Fort Lupton to use a structure that they have near the end of the ditch on the Fulton ditch. The town entered into an agreement with Fort Lupton back in 2019 for use of this structure because you had acquired Fulton shares in this third section of the ditch from United as part of the dedication of water rights for Lac Bowie Station. This agreement follows nearly exactly the same terms and conditions. We had told them at the time we were working with the developers of Silver Peaks East to obtain additional Fulton water, and since then we've closed on that water and the town now owns those shares. So this agreement is intended to allow the town to increase its capacity in that augmentation station. That will allow you to deliver this water in addition to the water you got from United back to the South Platte River so you can use the water. Typically, you'd either be delivering it to the river or exchanging it back up to United Diversion 3 and into United Reservoir, or taking it over into the BB drop. This augmentation station is part of the application we filed back in 2019 to change the Fulton ditch water rights that you got from United to municipal use and to let you use them in the augmentation plans that you have. This particular agreement is to allow you to deliver the Silver Peaks East Fulton shares. And we're about to file an application in Water Court to change those shares to municipal use and use in your augmentation plans. We'll be filing that at the end of this month. So it's very helpful to the town physically to have this structure, and also as part of the Water Court applications to show that you have control of structures where you can actually deliver and use this water. So as I mentioned, the terms and conditions are the same. You just have a slightly different number of shares in the ditch company here in section 3. And so the flow rate is just a little bit different for this additional capacity. In talking with Fort Lupton, because you have an existing agreement, they wanted to tie the two of them together just from a payment standpoint so that they don't get two different payments at two different times. I told them that I'm sure we could work that out with them. The length of this agreement is also tied to the length of the first agreement. It was set to expire December 31, 2040, so this one will have that same expiration date. And then the payment price is based upon the same calculations. Again, you have a slightly different amount of water or capacity, so the price is slightly different, but it's the same price per cubic foot per second. And then the O&M charges are also the same. They charge you $30 per share multiplied by the number of shares. So this agreement is, the form of it came from their lawyer. They had some mistakes in there about the number of shares that were in your first agreement and the number of shares in this agreement that are in section 3. So I made some changes to this. I sent them to their lawyer and told them what I was doing. It reduced the annual payment just a small amount. And so I'm submitting this to you without their final approval of those changes. I don't see any problem in getting those changes, but I would ask that you approve this agreement subject to any minor modifications we might need to resolve any last minute questions by them. I don't think any of those will be substantive changes, but I haven't actually formally heard back from their lawyer that those changes are okay.
Okay, Thank you. I did have one question on paragraph 3.1. It talks about the O&M payment shall be evaluated and adjusted January 1st, 2025, and every 5 years thereafter, and adjusted according to Fort Lupton's actual increase in the cost. I always get a little bit nervous about caps. I mean, is there any cap on this, or is it just what their actual increases or operations, their management and maintenance and all that stuff? How are they actually calculating that?
Yeah, I think there's either a provision or an understanding between us as to the type of information we would want to get from them if we have a dispute. But it is tied to actual O&M costs. You have a very small percentage of the total cost of the structure. So we don't think that would be a drastic change. But this was something we negotiated in the 2019 agreement. It was the best that we could do, giving them the ability to have those 5-year rate increases as needed rather than every year. So we have to take it a little bit on good faith with them. It is a 20-year lease, and this can happen 3 times during the term of that lease.
But it always acts retroactively for the previous 5 years. That's what they base the new number on, correct?
Well, so in 2025, they'll look back at 2021 through 2024 and see what those costs were, and they'll make an adjustment based upon what those costs were.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Trustee Ott? Trustee Kumerly?
No questions.
Trustee White?
Not at this time, thank you.
Trustee Westcott?
No, thank you.
Trustee Antonopoulos?
No, thank you.
Trustee Jeffrey?
No.
Okay, and I have none. So, entertain a motion.
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement for use of additional capacity in the Fulton Ditch Augmentation Station between the City of Fort Lupton Water Activity Enterprise and the Town of Loch Bowie, acting by and through its water activity enterprise, subject to the modifications mentioned by Mr. Jeffers.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Mahoney,
Yes.
Trustee Antonopoulos,
Yes.
Trustee Kimmerly,
Yes.
Trustee Ott,
Aye.
Trustee White,
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey,
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
And motion carries. The next item is the lease agreement with South Adams County Water.
Before I do that, I just wanted to mention one thing I think I left out in that prior discussion. The payment for that agreement with Fort Lupton would come from a deposit that the town received from the developer of Silver Peaks East. So just wanted you to understand that you already have the money in hand, but it will come from that deposit. So moving on to this third item, this is just an annual lease agreement with South Adams to use their Fulton Ditch Augmentation Station. They have a station that's really close to the head gate, so the water gets diverted into the ditch, and they take it back through that structure and deliver it to the river at a location very close to your diversion point on the river. So this is a really good structure for the town to be able to use. This lease would only let you deliver water that you own in that section, the first section of the ditch, first third of the ditch, because that's a ditch company requirement. They only let you deliver water that comes from the same section back to the river in that section. So in this case, you have some shares that these were also acquired from United as part of Loch Bowie Station dedication. And so we focused previously on trying to get an AUG station in Section 3. We actually were working on that agreement because we thought Michael Blumenthal's development was going to get done a long time ago, and then it didn't. So we switched over to get our first contract in Section 3 for United. United still has given you some water in Section 1 as part of that 2019 dedication. So this agreement would let you use this AUG station for just 1 year. We originally thought that we would get this agreement to you in December or January. We just simply delayed that. We're not positive that we will use the structure this year, but we think it's important to have this lease available in the event of an emergency in case you need to send water back through there. We are obtaining other water resources like the leases with Frico and like the lease with Castle Rock and the earlier 5K lease. But if we had to scramble, we might be able to use these AUG stations too. So this AUG station is also something that we've described in the water court application that's pending from the 2019 case. And we'll also be identifying this augmentation station in the application we're going to file this month. So again, it's also important that we show we have control over structures. And we hope to test this, if not this year, to test it next year. And the same thing with the Section 3 augmentation station, so we can see how well this operates and prove to everybody that we can do it without causing injury. So this is a small amount of money for this lease. It's $1,875. There are only a few existing augmentation stations on the ditch, and pretty much all of the municipal water providers, except for Fort Lupton, are only willing to enter into annual leases at this point. This is by far a very fair price for the lease of the structure. It's a lot lower than some of the other lease prices. And we think that you have a good relationship in water rights matters with South Adams. And we think it's important to work with them and to use this AUG station if we can. And maybe we can develop a more long-term agreement in the future. Or maybe we just are stuck with doing annual leases. But I think it's important for you to sign this lease. And we recommend that you approve it and sign it tonight.
Okay. Questions or comments? Trustee Westcott?
I have none, thanks.
Trustee White?
No, thank you.
Trustee Kimmerly?
I have no questions.
Trustee Jeffrey?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Antonopoulos?
No, thank you.
Trustee Ott? No questions, thanks. Okay, and I have no questions or comments.
Mayor?
Yes.
May I, one other thing. I did also change one thing on this document because we thought it was going to come to you earlier. It originally had a payment date, I think that was in February or March, and I changed that to May 1. Again, I ran that by South Adams' attorney. I haven't heard his response. I don't anticipate an objection to that. But since I haven't heard from him, I'd like the same type of approval, subject to minor modification if we need to address South Adams' concerns on this. Thank you.
Okay. All right, and with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the lease agreement regarding use of the Fulton Ditch Augmentation Station between South Adams County Water and Sanitation District and the town of Lochbuie, subject to the modification that Attorney Jeffers mentioned.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ott.
Aye.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Antonopoulos.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, the next item is ordinance number 2021-666. Ms. Duran, would you like to introduce?
Yeah,
Or-
thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Board. Maureen Duran, Town Attorney. Before you tonight is a ordinance 666, which is been brought forward to you because when the Town Board adopted the new Land Development Code in 2017, by doing that, we repealed other sections of our code, and it left us with provisions where we had definitions of mobile homes and manufactured homes, but no, beyond defining the terms, no meat, if you will, where the definitions were carried into the Land Development Code and clearly identified what the town was or wasn't going to allow as far as mobile and manufactured homes in the community. So we've drafted this ordinance to address that issue. And this is a meaty ordinance, even though it's a short one. The mayor called me yesterday, and I really appreciate that call, and discussed this with me a lot. The goal of the ordinance is really to not change policy, but to memorialize what the policy of the town is as far as what it is we are willing to accept for placement in the town. We have been taking the position for the last several years that we have adopted a building code called the International Residential Code, a 2018 version, and we've taken the position that any house that comes into the town, whether it's stick-built on-site or built as a manufactured house and then brought into town, needed to comply completely with the 2018 IRC. And that's not quite accurate. We have issues of federal and state law that preempt our ability as a local jurisdiction to require strict compliance with those building codes as it applies to manufactured housing. In other words, under the National Home Standards, National Manufactured Housing Construction and Safety Standards Act of 1974, there's federal preemption on the municipalities as far as what we can require. That said, we can require that while we might not be able to tell a manufactured housing manufacturer how to manufacture a house, we can tell them what performance standards we would require them to manufacture the house to. So for instance, we can require that a roof can withstand a snow load of X, because we live in Lochbuie and we get a lot more snow than they do down in Phoenix, for example. And we've already identified in our building code certain performance standards. So it's not really how to do it, but what to do it to standards. So we are trying to make sure that we can integrate into our definition of a manufactured home, which would be an allowable home within the community, those types of performance standards under our building code. So that's a long way of me introducing this to you tonight, because it's not really ready tonight for you to take action on and vote on. We have sent this out to some experts in the manufactured housing community to get their position on our definitions here and our effort to try to ensure that those performance standards are in fact something that we can write into the code, and we don't risk anybody coming back and saying that we've overstepped our boundaries in light of the federal and state law that preempts us from imposing our building codes. So what I'd like tonight is, because it is scheduled for a public hearing and we did publish notice of the public hearing this evening, I'd like for the mayor to open up the public hearing, but then continue this matter to a future date for us to bring it back to you. And I'll have more information from those sort of experts on manufactured housing to get ourselves into a position of feeling a little bit more secure about moving forward this way.
Okay, thank you. All right, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:08 and take testimony. I don't think we have anybody wanting to speak. And we're going to continue this out. And what do you think, Maureen, as far as...
Well, I think that because we might be making substantive changes between now and the date that we continue this to, we should just leave the public hearing open, and when we come back into our meeting, in case somebody wants to come in and testify on the amended version that we're actually going to be taking action on, to give them that opportunity to do so.
Yeah, well, I was more going towards what do you think would be a good date as far as
a date.
Timelines?
Well, so I think we have a couple of busy meetings coming up on May 4th and May 18th.
Yeah.
I might recommend the first meeting in June.
So maybe the
Would be June.
second meeting in June?
Yeah, we can certainly do the second as well. I think we're okay until then. Steve, do we have a lot of pressure? Do you know?
I think Sonia has just a couple of questions that she's dealing with, but
I think we can with Sonia between now and then, based on the position we've taken to date on these homes.
so the first meeting in June is June 1st, and June 15 is the second meeting.
Yeah, I'm okay with either. So,
Why don't we go for June 1st?
June 1st it is. We'll continue this until June 1st. Okay, and we'll leave the public hearing open. So this is going to continue till then. Did anyone have anything? Go ahead.
I am just curious if it would be possible for us to see what we have now or don't have now and how it's changing, just for our own knowledge, and so that if we do get questions, we are giving correct information.
I'm happy to provide that to you. It's in chapter 19. And what I'll tell you is that you have a definition in there of a mobile home and a mobile home park, but then you never have any language in your code. Other than having definitions, you have no language in your code that says mobile home parks are allowed here or there, or anything that straightforward says we don't allow mobile homes in our in the town, only manufactured homes, and only manufactured homes that meet these standards. So I can show you what you've got, but you won't find it that helpful.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else have anything? Trustee Antonopoulos?
It's my understanding, just from reading through this, is that this is specific to mobile homes that would be connected to public utilities. So like an RV or a fifth wheel that would be parked on a public property and connected to public utilities like water and electricity. That was my reading of this.
No, we're actually going to be bringing forward to you in the next couple of meetings as well an ordinance that's going to deal with RVs and camper trailers and that kind of thing, because it's another area where we had regulations in place. And when we adopted the 2017 Land Development Code, because we repealed an entire chapter, some of those regulations got lost. And that includes how we regulate the placement and the occupancy, frankly, of RVs or campers on lots in town. So that's going to be coming forward in a different ordinance. This ordinance has to do with mobile homes and manufactured homes in town and where we allow them. So for instance, in most of the newer residential communities in town, the design standards and the annexation agreements and the development standards don't allow those types of manufactured homes to be placed at all. But over in, oh God, Steve, I'm drawing a blank. What's it called?
Lockwood and Spacious Living.
Yeah.
Near the elementary school, right?
Yeah. Yes. We do have some manufactured homes in there. And what we're trying to get to here is we want manufactured homes that are built in a safe enough manner that they'll be able to withstand the elements that are presented to structures in the town of Lockwood. And so we just don't have straightforward language like that left in our code after we've adopted the LDC. So this doesn't really deal with those kind of recreational and mobile camper type vehicles. It's more permanent structures for residing in.
Sure. Well, and I actually totally agree that manufactured housing should be under the same requirements as any other type of housing, because for all intents and purposes, those manufactured homes, say by Lockbilly Elementary, are permanent homes. They're not going anywhere, even though I suppose technically they could. I guess I totally understand that, but in reading the ordinance, you're trying to define mobile home from manufactured home, which I know can get tricky. So basically, we're attempting to adopt an ordinance that does not allow a non-manufactured home to become a permanent home on a private property.
Right. So over in the spacious living section of town, we have a lot of homes that don't meet the definition of manufactured house. And they would be mobile, what we call mobile homes. And this is a very semantics heavy regulation. And frankly, one that there just doesn't seem to be great continuity across the country, even on how we talk about a manufactured house versus a mobile home versus what some people call a modular home. The definitions of those three terms just get, they're fuzzy lines across the country. And what we're trying to do here is be really straightforward in our identification of what is a manufactured house and what is a modular house, or I'm sorry, a mobile home, and say no mobile homes in the community other than those that are already here.
Okay, that was all. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right, thank you, Maureen, and we will continue this to the June 1st meeting. All right, and back into the regular meeting, I should say, at 7:15. All right, next item is the farmhouse. Mr. Stamey, Mr. Ann?
You want me to take that, Steve? Or?
Sure, if you want to, yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Mayor. So if you recall a conversation we had at the board meeting, I think it was 2 meetings ago, about the farmhouse there at the entrance to Blue Lake and the desire to get that farmhouse, which we know has some asbestos concerns and has also unfortunately become an attractive nuisance, removed from, so both get the asbestos abated and removed from town. It's in the ownership of LGI, that's the major builder out there at Blue Lake. And we agreed as a town board in principle that we would be willing to give them some PIF credits in exchange to assist them in the price and the cost of abating the asbestos and demolishing that house. And in exchange for that, then they would convey that tract to us for open space. And so the value of those PIF credits is about $15,000. This agreement outlines that relationship. And what it says is that LGI is going to complete the asbestos mitigation work and LGI will do all the demolition work. And they will convey the property then to the town by deed. They warrant that there will be no environmental contamination from the asbestos on the property, that they will pay the taxes up on the property up until the time of conveyance. And in exchange, we will give them approximately $15,500 worth of PIF credits that they can use either in Blue Lake or on another lot in the town of Loch Bowie. So we'll give them some form of a certificate that we will hold on to that they can basically transfer as long as it's used at some other location in town. We estimated, if you recall, the total cost of that asbestos mitigation and demolition at about $45,000, and LGI is bearing the remaining cost on that.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments? Trustee Jeffrey?
Is there a date upon which we're setting an expectation that that will be followed through on and completed? I didn't see that in this agreement.
There is not a date, but I'll tell you, LGI is just waiting for us to get this signed. LGI would have gotten this deeded over to us a year ago if they could have. They're really, really anxious to get this off their books. They've been paying taxes on that property. And frankly, they've been concerned about liability as it relates to the attractive nuisance of that farmhouse. So we don't have a date in here. I think they would be amenable to that if we wanted to put something in here like that. But they're very, very motivated to get this done.
I know they are, and I appreciate that. Would we typically have a date in an agreement such as this? And if so, then I would suggest we include one.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Mr. Johns because one of the attorney for LGI had told me several weeks ago that they'd already started the asbestos abatement work, and Mr. Johns had been out to the property around that time, and he was surprised to hear me say that because he hadn't seen anything going on. I don't know if, I just want to set a realistic date, I guess. Is there anything going on at that property?
So at this point, LGI has worked with a company to abate the property. They have submitted that to the town with a demo permit. And so at this point, everything's been submitted to be able to go through with the process, other than, of course, the conveyance of the track. So everything's in place.
Anything else?
Jeff,
Okay.
I'm happy to put a 3-month time frame in there. I think it's going to happen a lot faster than that, but we can certainly do that.
All right. Trustee Antonopoulos, any questions, comments?
No, thank you.
Trustee Westcott?
No, thanks.
Trustee White?
No, thank you.
Trustee Kummerly?
No comments.
Trustee Ott?
No comments, thank you.
And I have nothing. Looking for a motion.
I move to approve the tract conveyance agreement between the LGI Homes of Colorado LLC and the town of Loch Buoy, Colorado Municipal Corporation in the counties of Adams and Weld County, state of Colorado.
Second.
Now let me amend that to be completed by July 1st. I want a date on, so that's acceptable to everybody?
Yep.
July 1st of 2021.
I think that might be cutting it a little close. I mean, depending on how long the abatement takes. Yeah, I know the abatement can take a bit if they have any issues or anything else, but,
What if we did August 1st?
August
yeah,
1st?
that sounds good.
All right, by August 1st.
And the abatement is done. They have
Oh, it
completed
is
the abatement.
completed?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I thought you said they had the
It should be
permits in.
fairly simple. The abatement's done. They've submitted that. They had to submit the abatement process with the demo permit that it has been completed.
Oh, okay,
And then
all
we'll
right.
leave it at September, we'll leave it at July 1st.
Yeah, so they're clipping along. All right, perfect. All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Trustee White. Trustee Antonopoulos.
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Trustee White. Or Trustee Ott, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Thank you.
And motion carries. Next item is the addition, the Castle Rock augmentation water.
Yes, thank you. So at the end of last year, the town had entered into a lease agreement with Castle Rock. That agreement accomplished two things. One, it provided for Castle Rock's use of Loch Buoy's Bell Mountain Ranch wells. And should Castle Rock decide to pump our wells, Loch Buoy would receive the ability to essentially take an equal amount of water supply that Castle Rock has available in Chatfield Reservoir. The other thing that lease agreement provided for was Loch Buoy's ability to lease additional supplies from Castle Rock that it may have available even if Castle Rock did not pump Loch Buoy's wells. So that agreement is already in place. Castle Rock has not yet pumped any of Loch Buoy's wells. They may still do so as we enter into the irrigation season. We just don't know whether or not they pump those wells is going to be a function of water demands within Castle Rock and just how dry the conditions continue to be at Castle Rock. But in the meantime, we have storage space available in our reservoirs, and we essentially have the need for the augmentation water now. It's a dry year, and we are not terribly optimistic that we're going to get much water available under free river conditions. And because of those factors, we're recommending that we go ahead and contract for 250 acre feet from Castle Rock that would essentially be deliverable from Chatfield Reservoir down to our storage facilities in United Reservoir when we need it. The timing is such that the water is available now, and I want to move on this opportunity before someone else snatches it up. So it's a bit of a different sequencing than is provided for based on the typical operation under that lease agreement. But what we're proposing here is very much allowed under that lease agreement. It's possible that Castle Rock may still pump Loch Buoy's wells, in which case we would have the option of either taking delivery of additional water, or we could receive a credit essentially back to the town for water that they may pump, either in the form of a credit in future invoices for the operation of the Bell Mountain wells, or frankly, depending on the quantities, it could come back to us in the form of a refund. But what I'm requesting here today is the ability to submit a formal request to the town of Castle Rock for 250 acre feet of water at a lease rate of $340 per acre foot, which results in a cost of $85,000. And the water would sit parked in Chatfield until we move it down for our need. Again, the town needs the water right now, so we're recommending that we get it secured so that it's available for us here later this summer and into the fall.
I would point out to the board that we do have $120,000 in the 2021 budget for water rights lease.
Okay. All right, questions, comments? Trustee Kimmerly?
No question, thank you.
Trustee Ott?
No questions, thank you.
Trustee Jeffrey?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee White?
None, thank you.
Trustee Westcott?
No, I don't have any questions.
Trustee Antonopoulos?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, and I have nothing, so entertain a motion.
I move to approve the lease agreement between the town of Castle Rock and the town of Lochbuie for 250 acre feet of augmentation water of cost not to exceed $85,000.
I'll second.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Trustee White. Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Aye.
Trustee Kimmerly.
Yes.
Trustee Antonopoulos.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll move on from here. Thank you, Mr. Jeffers and Mr. Sanchez. It's good seeing you guys, and you guys come here making us put out a lot of money, but you keep the water flowing. All right, next item is staff reports. Chief?
Good evening. I don't have anything to add other than my report. If anybody has any questions or comments for me, I would be happy to address those.
Right, Trustee Jeffrey?
I don't have anything, thank you, Chief.
Trustee Ott?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Comerly?
No questions, thank you.
Trustee White?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Westcott?
I have nothing, thank you.
And Trustee Antonopoulos? I don't see her anymore. Anyway, all right, we'll move on. Thanks, Chief. And next, we'll go to water and wastewater.
Okay. Glad to see everybody.
Oh, man.
Is that echo? Am I talking too loud? Yeah, I know I'm loud. I get hollered at a lot for that. My March report shows that, actually March wasn't bad at all. Even though we had that heavy snow, we didn't have high flows. So it tells you your sewer system's pretty tight, which is good news. We did, I think last month, I probably didn't do last month, but Denise and I have been working on the billing that the money we received from Brighton based on their prorated share of what comes in through their meter. And while the numbers that we've been getting paid for were correct, the numbers that we've been putting on our report are not. The numbers that we've been putting on our report are the flow numbers from the Brighton lift station, but somehow over the years, and I mean going back like 2014, they didn't subtract what came out of Silver Peaks. So it's not that Silver Peaks gives us a lot of flow every day, but they have been incorrect. So we went back and corrected the years, and I finally got through it while I was on vacation, and I sent the updated information to Denise so she can, go back through the accounting and make sure what our math is and what theirs was and what we got billed on. To that end, I'm having the guys go out to the meter station every day and reading themselves because we get those numbers emailed from Brighton. So instead of, not saying that we don't trust them, but we would rather verify. So we started doing that, so we didn't lose any money, let me just put it that way. But accuracy is important for me, and it is for you guys. So we did correct all those. Today, we had a nice big surprise at the wastewater plant. We had a bunch of 2x4s coming into the wastewater plant. I don't know, did Brian get a hold of you? Did you get a chance to look around anywhere?
We're gonna go out, I think Brian and I are gonna go out tomorrow.
Yeah, I told him it'd be better to go into.
And drive some development.
Because believe it or not, I mean, think about it, Mark. I mean, it showed up today at lunchtime. How long did it take to get there, right? I mean, that water's only flowing 2 feet per second. That could have went in yesterday and finally make it down. But as if anybody's been to the hardware store buying any 2x4s, you're like, somebody's throwing gold down the pooper, you know, you're going like, okay, well, that was, and I mean, we're talking big pieces. We're not talking little bitty chunks. So I told Brian, we'll take it out, wash it off, and we might need it for something. Save us some money. We've been doing really good on dewatering. I mean, we're really making some good headway. If you look at that bottom table, last year, we did 302,000 gallons, and it was 216 wet tons. This month, this year, last year we did 404, this year we did 302, and yet we still got almost over half of what we did last year. So that thing's running very nice. The other thing, I think last month I showed you pictures down at the wastewater plant of that baffle ring that came off and fell off of it just because it was UV damaged. Well, we got in and inspected it, and we pretty much have to replace the whole thing. The quote we got for the parts was like $23,000 for the parts. It'll take two guys, 2 days, probably 2 full days to get in there to repair it. Since we only got the quote for the parts like last Friday, I didn't have time to prepare anything for this report. So if you didn't mind, there's a couple things I'd like to come back to the 1st of May meeting with, so that we can get that repaired and get it online before summer comes. Other than that, the wastewater plant's running excellent, getting really good numbers. We joined this program a couple years ago called the Voluntary Incentive Program with the Health Department. And what that is there will be upcoming regulations that are much tighter than what we have right now. And so the Voluntary Incentive Program was, if you can meet those upcoming limits now, for every month that you get to do that, you can show that you're meeting those limits, you get a 1 month get out of jail free card, so to speak. So that we can have more time to plan to meet those limits. First year we did it, we passed every month. So we got a full year grace period just from this last year.
Is that the Reg 80?
Reg 85.
85, yeah.
So we got a full 12 months of an extension. So that also tells us that even though we had things break and things went wrong, we still were able to meet those limits. So that's really good news for when we have to expand the facility, because we're getting close to our 80%. We're going to stick with what we've got. I mean, it works already, so there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. So that was good news. The water plant, I also showed you last month of that isolation valve. Remember, we had Linda send out a note in the building that we were going to shut the pressure down at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, the valves out in the yard that isolate the storage tanks, they leak. We couldn't complete the work because we couldn't overcome the amount of water that was coming in through that pipe. It wasn't much pressure, right? So we know it was just the pressure from the tanks. It wasn't the pressure from the distribution system coming back in. So we called Dan's Custom, the guy that did the leak out here for us, and had him come over and take a look at it. And he's finally got us some pricing on that, and that's going to be anywhere between $30,000 to $36,000 to dig up those valves and replace them. So since I actually got those today from him. He's been real busy and he hasn't been get time to get it to me. So that would be the other thing I'd like to come back, so I could show a schematic of what it is that we're doing and why we have to do it. But those are two, you know, you can look at that, like that repair out there, I mean, that was probably a $30,000 leak, right? So yeah, and our budget's, I think 85 for repair and maintenance on lines. So, and we got like 50 on the plant. Well, you can see, all it takes is 2 incidents like that, and your budget cuts in half, right? So if anything else comes up, you know, and this is only April, anything can happen, especially in the distribution system. But we do need to fix those isolation valves. I want to bring it to you the 1st of May, because if you give us the go-ahead, we can get it done before irrigation season comes. And because we'll need all 4 of those booster pumps running when irrigation season comes. And we want to get that all fixed before that arrives. So those are 2 bad news things. Other than that, we're moving ahead. The membrane inspection on our matrix for the water plant, COVID kind of hit that company, and they haven't come out of Oklahoma all year. So they're scheduled to come up the 2nd of May to get that done. The rest of it is still all planning things. You know, I did send an email and had a conversation with Mr. Sanchez on the deep well, and I know he's working on that. And as far as the elevated tank, that's going to require land to be able to put that up. I'm sure that'll come about in one of the development agreements soon. We did get on the wastewater CIP stuff, we did get all our cleaning and televising done this year. I think we all learned a real good lesson about some of the pipes in town that go from the main line to the houses are not rigid, because when you're applying, you know, 2,000 pounds of pressure inside that main line, the inside of the house pipes rattle. So we had quite a few people. So we know to let Linda know ahead of time to get on the website that if your sewer pipe's rattling, that usually means somebody's cleaning your pipe out in front. So, but you know, we had budgeted for $150,000 for sewer line repairs. We won't need that. All the televising showed that everything we did last year and this year, there were no anomalies, no bellies, no protruding taps, nothing. So we're in real good shape. And we did the main line. We didn't do the one from Blue Lake yet because of mud. We'll have to wait till that dries out. But that line's got enough flow in it. I doubt if anything would ever happen to that line. Other than you could always have a collapse when I say that. But it looked good last time. The Weir launder covers, we were striking out on getting pricing. I mean, not so much pricing, but the cost of FRP, which is the material that they're made out of, has doubled in price in the last year. So we were striking out to be within budget. So I got a wild hair to talk to somebody that makes aluminum covers, and we could probably come in on budget. So we're gonna, before I would bring it to you, I want to go look at them and touch them and make sure that we're not buying, you know, buying something that's subpar. Actuated control DOs on the DO and aeration basin systems. Brian's working on that. We talked to the SCADA integrator, and we ought to be able to kick that off here in the next month. The next few things, as we talked about last month, the admin building, the paving the plant roads. Since we're right in the middle of, or we're at the beginning phases of doing the master plan for the wastewater plant for expansion, it would probably be, you know, a better buy if we just included that kind of stuff when we have to upgrade the wastewater plant, and we'll get a much better price. You could get it all under one general contractor that's going to do the plant that'd be able to do that other stuff. So we'll hold off on that. Although I do need to get with Mr. Johns to see if maybe we can work out a deal on a dump truck. I still think we could buy the dump truck because we could save quite a bit of money of hauling our own biosolids, because all Veris does is pick it up over here, take it up to Keensburg, and goes to the compost facility. So for us, if we fill that container up, we got to call them up and go, hey, well, can you come over and pick this container up? So you're at their mercy, right? So if they got a big job or something, we're like, last guys in the line, and sometimes we've had to wait 3-4 days. So if we had our own dump truck, we'd be easy just to fill it up and take it up there and not wait on that. And that'd be a whole lot cheaper than paying them. And I can work a deal out with the guy that runs that compost facility, so I know him, that we could probably cut that price in half. And I know Mark could probably use a new truck, and I could use one of his old ones. Right? So as far as the master plan, they've got most of the data. I think Craig has been pestering Linda, one of the engineers for Aqua has been pestering Linda for a lot of data, and he's very consistent. So he drove me nuts for like 3 weeks, so I got him all the data. I would say that we're going to have a meeting in the next couple of weeks, and when we meet at that meeting, then we're going to determine what's our service area. Okay, so right now, we don't go on the other side of I-76, so now's the time to say, this is if Lock Buoy is going to grow, where do we want to serve? How far north do we want to serve? How far east do we want to serve? Even west if it flows gravity. So that'll be a long discussion. That might be a study session where you can get up to speed of how that works, because it's not something you can learn in me talking on this for 15 minutes. So I'm excited. I mean, this is a good time for us to make our plans and see how big of a service area we want to take on. I mean, I know you talked with Dan out there on County Road 2. How far east do we want to serve? How far north do we want to serve? That's important to know, because if that land starts getting developed and they're not within your service area, they don't necessarily have to negotiate with you on a lot of things. Providing utilities is what developers want, right? And I mean, I'm not saying that you want to develop, but it's a discussion to have. It doesn't hurt to have a big service area, even though it may not be served, there may not be development occur. If that makes sense. So other than that, that's the good news and bad news of the water and sewer.
All right. Any questions or comments for Mr. Ramey? Trustee Jeffrey? No?
No, thanks.
Trustee Ott? Trustee Kimmerly?
I have nothing.
Trustee White?
No, thank you.
Trustee Westcott?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Antonopoulos?
Nothing right now, thanks.
I only have one thing. If you find the toilet that they flushed those 2x4s down, let me know. I want to buy one.
Mayor, that was an open manhole. Nothing can go through that big through a gooseneck, trust me.
All right, thank you. All right.
Wayne, I thought that the guy
Turn your-
I thought the guy out on Road 2 had his own wastewater treatment plant.
He's putting one in, but you know what? You know how that goes, Dave. Unless you've been doing it, and I mean, he's been doing it for a long time, he's going to have a certified operator, right? I mean, he's going to have overhead. Any development, I don't care who it is, he's a contractor. Wouldn't he much rather spend his time contracting instead of looking after a sewer plant?
I just thought he was putting his own sewer plant in.
Oh, he is.
Okay.
But trust me, if we got sewer out there, he'd give up that sewer plant in a heartbeat. Because he's going to have to pay me a lot of money to go there twice a week.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Wayne. Mr. Johns, your floor.
Yes, I don't have anything really additional to my report that I have here, other than a couple of notes that we did submit an offer to our final Public Works employee. I will let you know if he accepts the offer and if we're able to bring him on board at the next presentation, as well as we did install a crosswalk for the park over on Jewel, over up in Silver Peaks, which was probably much needed. Jewel's a pretty busy road, and there was no signage, no crosswalk for the little park that was on the east side of there, as well as the ATV signs that were asked by the board to be put along for that power line area. Those have all been installed. And then, of course, like I noted in the report, I'm getting pricing together for some additional street signage. Part of Old Town has all been replaced, and we're going to continue to work through and update all of the street blades throughout the town as far as the old ones. So other than that, any questions, I'm here to answer.
All right. Trustee Jeffrey?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Antonopoulos?
Nothing, thanks.
Trustee Westcott?
I just want to say thank you for the efforts to get the 2 crosswalks that have been installed in Silver Peaks over the last few months. That's been something that's been a concern of mine for a long time. And I think you're exactly right. I know that the neighbors in the Silver Peaks neighborhood have really had safety concerns about Jewel Park for a long time. And so I think that crosswalk was really needed. And so I just appreciate that that's gotten done. Thank you.
Trustee White?
I will second that. Thank you for the crosswalks, but I did have one question about the Jewel Street Park that we have talked about before. Have you heard anything else about the request for the approval of the fence?
I had talked to Melissa, it's been a couple of weeks, about, we actually met on site maybe a month ago, and we were walking the area. At that point, she said she was going to get some more information together, because it was myself, Melissa, and the contractor who was going to be installing the fence. I have not seen anything as far as the submittal. I know there was, what they were looking to do didn't meet the current town ordinance, and so we were kind of discussing that, and they were going to get back in touch with me. I haven't heard anything from Melissa on that since.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Trustee Kimmerly?
I have no questions.
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. Mr. Stamey?
Mayor, I think Town Clerk Blackson has a couple of updates I'd like her to just update the board with.
Okay, Ms. Blackston?
Just a couple of things. I forgot to bring the notice for the newsletter, but I just wanted to let you all know that we were going to put on Facebook that the newsletter is going to go electronically, and then those will also be in the billing for everybody, and then the people who get Express Bill Pay, the electronic version, will get the electronic version of that notice, that there will no longer be electronic versions of the newsletter, and then how they can subscribe to get them either through the website or coming here and us mailing them out, and or if they have the electronic Express Bill Pay. So, and also I'm going to share it on Facebook. I'll probably do that tomorrow. So I just ask that if you all have a page that you share it when I share it, just to get it out there a little bit more. And then for those of you that have been bugging today about the Lac Bowie Municipal Sewer Board meeting for this Thursday, it has been canceled because we couldn't get Brighton's members. That day didn't work for them. So they have, after speaking to them, they have the 29th available, which is next Thursday. So I'm wondering if you guys could check your schedules and see if that will work for you guys. It'll be the same time, 6:30. Steve was thinking it might be just about an hour. And then I can let them know tomorrow if that works, and we can get all that put together and sent out.
What was the date again?
April 29th, so next Thursday.
That's fine with me.
Okay, thank you. Was that, I'm sorry, was that Solara or May? I was looking away, I apologize. Okay,
It was me, Solara.
thank you.
I should be able to make that as well. That's Trustee Westcott.
Thank you.
And I will make it as well.
Steve, does Wayne Ramey need to be there?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, well then I'll let Brighton know, and then, so probably at the first of the week, Monday or Tuesday, you'll get an invite for that meeting and the agenda item and the documents. So thank you very much. And that's all I had.
And this will be Zoom.
It will be Zoom.
All right. And Mr. Stamey?
Okay, so just a couple of quick updates. I did meet with the Blue Lake developer this week, and they're looking at a couple of water alternates for that subdivision, for the next phase. And they're gonna be bringing more information on that probably in the next week or so. And then we're trying to work on getting the County Road 2 plan review finalized. As I understand it, will be sent tonight to Walton's engineer, but D.R. Horton is trying to get ready to start construction of that road. I think they've taken some initial bids. A few details they need to finish up yet, but hopefully they will start on that west end and the Silver Peaks frontage this summer. And that's the two primary updates today.
All right. Anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Stamey? Trustee Kimmerly?
No questions.
Trustee Ott?
Have you heard anything back from, who is it, the new annexation people about what we submitted back to them? Are you still working on that?
Is this on the, across from Blue Lake?
Yeah, I can't think of the name of the company that's doing it.
So and LaRusso is a primary contact, but no, there's been no follow-up
Okay, thank you.
yet.
Trustee Jeffrey?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Trustee White?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Westcott?
I'm just going to bring this up in trustee comments, and I can wait to do that if you think it's more appropriate. But I did have a question about CR2 and the, you mentioned that. So here's my question, and then you can tell me if I need to hold it. I was driving that today, and the 2-lane portion that's finished is the speed limit is set there at 35 miles an hour. And then as soon as you get past the finished part, it goes back up to 45 miles an hour, where there's only 1 lane in each direction. And that confuses me. I was sort of wondering what the logic was behind that.
I don't know, I guess I need probably the chief and other people to comment on the speed limit.
I could probably address that. That southern portion is, the speed limit is dictated by Brighton, and so that's why it's at 45. And so when you pass and go beyond the Spear Canal, that becomes all of ours, and we're at 35. So there is a little bit of a discrepancy between the speed limits. I have worked with Brighton to try to, I guess, make it as uniform and consistent as possible. So basically, once you cross the Spear going westbound, it goes to a 45. Everything to the east side of Spear is 35. Once the road's completed, I believe we're going to reach an agreement on a speed limit for the entire road, so it's consistent, is the last discussion.
Okay, so just to restate,
Go with 40.
the plan is finalized. There will be a consistent, goal is to make that a consistent speed for the whole length of road.
Yes. I've talked with Brighton about, once it is completed, we want a consistent speed limit throughout that entire 168th.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay. And Trustee Antonopoulos?
Nothing, thank you.
Right, and I have nothing. Thank you. Steve? We have Lockwood Fire back here? Yes, sir. Would you like to, you're not on it, but, you know, could have got you earlier today, but early in the meeting.
Good evening. My name is Cody Peterson. I'm one of the battalion chiefs with Hudson Lockwood Fire. I wanted to come down and introduce myself. I understand that, you know, we've had an absence from being a part of the meetings. You know, this last year with COVID, it's going to put a stressor on everybody. So I'm here to, you know, just introduce myself. In the past year, Hudson Fire Department we've hired 3 battalion chiefs. So all 3 of us are on a 4896 schedule with the rest of the crews. Our staffing is now up to 30 personnel to include the battalion chiefs. And it's going to be our priority effort to make it here for these meetings, at least one of the meetings each month, just so that there's a familiar face if you guys have questions for us, whatnot. Tonight, I just wanted to kind of share with you some of the recent statistics. Right now for the town, within town limits, we're only at 108 calls, which is down substantially from last year, which is a good thing. And don't get me wrong there. But we have seen a drastic drop in call volume through this past, I guess, year and a half now through the pandemic. We are seeing a steady increase outside of town. When we've gotten several auto aid and mutual aid agreements now in place with Brighton Fire, Fort Lupton, and so forth that surround the area. So as far as coverage goes, we are well on our way to becoming a much more progressive and aggressive agency that we're able to provide a quicker service for the citizens. So other than that, that was basically all we had. I was asked to ask a potential status of our carport over there. I know that there's been a lot of disconnect between Safe Built and the building company, and we're just lost in the middle somewhere. So if you guys have any information on that, I'd love to be able to take that back. If there's a variance needed, we'd be happy to take care of that as well.
Go ahead.
So we have a staff discussion with the fire department on the status of that carport. Unfortunately, it was built without a building permit, and nobody ever checked with the town when that was installed. So there's some issues for correction.
So my understanding is there was a request to have an additional submittal, and we had not received that submittal. And I had our permit gal check again today, and she has not received those additional documents. So her name is Sonia. I mean, I can have, if you have a card or an email address, that I can have her send that to you. But I know that Safe Built is not doing anything. My understanding is because they don't have anything to look at, because the stuff that was submitted wasn't what they needed. So
That was actually the last understanding I had. Unfortunately, I'm not the one who's dealing with it, which I'm very happy about that. But it sounds like the original plans that were submitted to Safe Built from Eagle Carports sent them the wrong ones, and there's been no follow-up to it. So apparently, my last understanding was that Safe Built did a site visit there, and where it was from there, I'm not sure. So I'll be happy to pass that back on to the other battalion chief that is handling that, in hopes that he might be able to find some more information on that. Then I appreciate you guys.
All right. Thank you very much. It's good to see you guys back in here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anyone have anything? Trustee Coomerly?
Could you share and speak to the new EMS capabilities we have in town with the unit that we have at Station 3?
Yes. We have contracted with Platte Valley Ambulance. They are providing an ambulance 24/7, 365 here at our Loch Louis station, with them being our primary sole care providers for the town and our surrounding area. We are still contracted with Southeast Wildfire, an EMS out of Keensburg. They're providing the services to the northeastern half, with Platte Valley providing services down here. They have been an amazing addition with us and for us, not only for the citizens, but us as personnel, providing on-site training, and just quicker response times where we're not having to wait as long for an ambulance, or transport times are cut down drastically. It has been an absolute phenomenal investment.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Kierman? No? All right. Trustee White, anything?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Westcott? Okay. Trustee Antonopoulos?
Nothing, thanks.
Trustee Jeffrey?
Just nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
Trustee Ott? No comment. Have nothing? Yes, thank you for coming.
I think
All
you all
right,
have a good night.
Mayor and trustee comments. Trustee Antonopoulos,
Nothing tonight, thanks.
trustee Westcott,
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things. With the lifting of COVID restrictions about outdoor gatherings, I was wondering if we could move forward with potentially scheduling some events for the fall, or an event for the fall. I know that Trustee Ott spoke with someone at Brighton today, and the Oasis is indeed going to be open this summer. And so maybe that's one of the things that we could possibly consider as an outdoor event for the town, is to do an Oasis night. But I would like to also pursue, if not the full-on fall festival that has been done in the past, some sort of fall festival. I know that was not always the town that sponsored that was a nonprofit group that would put that on, but it has been something that my family and our neighbors have really enjoyed in the years that we've been here, and I would just really like to see that tradition continue in spite of COVID. So that's the first thing. The other thing I wanted to mention is, I know that in the past there has been some sort of, over the summer, there's usually been some sort of, I guess it was a retreat, but an opportunity for the board to network and get to know one another. And I think that would be a really appropriate and good thing for us to do, especially considering how new so many of us are, and that we really have not had an opportunity to get to know one another. And again, with the easing of COVID restrictions and the anticipated continuance of that over the summer, I think that maybe we could talk about how we can set that up and get that going. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention tonight is that several, I've seen several and been talked to by several members of Silver Peaks, residents of Silver Peaks, but there's an ongoing concern about security, specifically that vandalism, and I don't know, people keep saying that there's drug deals going down at the Jewel Park after dark because there's no lighting there. And so I guess I was just curious as to the police department's take on what's going on over there as the sun goes down.
Well, I can't speak to any individual incidents because I haven't been made aware of any. This is the first I've heard of it. So
That's good to know, because everyone I've talked to keeps saying that they've contacted the police department on multiple occasions.
and that could be, but I wouldn't be made aware of specifically of a call for service that the officers go out to and don't find anything, or even if they do write tickets for it, I wouldn't necessarily find that out every day. But I would say that is the best thing that can happen, is that they need to call the police when they see suspicious activity going on, so that we can be made aware of it. I would tell you that lighting, while that means you can see people back there, it also means they can see more of what they're doing. So lighting isn't necessarily always more secure. There's two edges to that sword, I guess, I would say, with that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put anyone on the spot. Really, I think more than anything, I just sort of wanted to put that on your radar.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, no, that's good. No, I don't feel like you put me on the spot. That's fine. I think that, I would say the feedback is, if there are people that are concerned, they need to make sure that they're calling. And then if they are and they're not seeing anything, I would like to get more feedback from other people. But I'll look into it from my end and find out what's going on and look at the calls for service, if we've actually had any out there, how many there have been.
We appreciate that. That's all I have. Thank you.
okay. Trustee White,
Nothing, thank you.
trustee Kimberly,
Just a quick update. Last time we were together, we had talked about some initiatives coming, or votes of support coming from Dr. Cog about some new innovative fees that they're supporting. that the legislature may not get to, probably won't get to this year, but will be coming probably to us at 2022 about a mileage fee based on how many miles we drive a year, based on the increase of EV vehicles out on the road, and also the new exciting, not semi-fast speed train between Cheyenne and Pueblo that also would be sustained long-term, again, by a fee. So I only share that with you because I know Trustee Ott has that same reservations of being feed to death. So I just wanted to keep you all updated that that few of us did not support that, but the majority did. So that is the position moving forward with Dr. Cog to support these new fees.
I always love the statement, innovative new fees. Yeah, that's pretty, yeah. Way to butter that bread. Well, thank you. Trustee Ott?
He covered what's going on at the base of the CML. The fees are coming whether we like it or not. We are in the process of starting a grassroots campaign to put fees under Tabor, but we'll see what happens to that. I know they're trying to dissuade us from doing that, but that's what we're trying to do right now. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Trustee Jeffrey?
Just a couple of things. First of all, thank you to LGI and the town for pushing forward with the farmhouse property at the entrance to my subdivision. I know a lot of residents that are going to be excited to see that area cleaned up and, you know, be less of a safety concern for us as well. So thank you. And then second of all, I was invited to attend the library board meeting tomorrow at 5, and then we'll be going to the Hudson Town Council meeting at 6, and I think I'm going to be sworn in as a library board member. Not quite sure, the message was not super clear, but I think so, which means I don't think anybody else applied, so that's exciting. More meetings, woo! That's all I have tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
May I jump in? I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to circle back around, but with the removal of the house, at some point, can we put it on to discuss what we're going to do with that land now that we've acquired it, so it doesn't just grow weeds?
Part of, from what my understanding was, as far as the discussion with it, it would be turned into like part of the park. And so the plan is to fill it all in, and then we would sod it and clean it all up and just add it as additional space for that park that's already existing there.
All right, thank you. All right, that is one of the things I would like to talk about too. I'd like to put it on a future meeting. I believe Trustee Westcott brought it up about, you know, the possibility of doing festivals, things of that nature. And also, she did bring up the retreat. The board, we had always held, usually at the beginning of the year, we hold a retreat, and that is a goal-setting retreat. And usually that's, you know, we meet, we sit down, and we discuss where we want to go, where we want to get to. And I wholeheartedly agree. We've been in such separation, it's been hard for us to, you know, really get together, really get to know each other, because we're going to be working together for at least the next 4 years. Well, except for Dave, he's going to be leaving us in 2. And if his knees were good, he'd run out the door. But I wholeheartedly believe in the retreats. You know, I believe in this being able to get together and really knowing each other. Whether we agree or disagree on things, we have to work together, and that's, you know, I can't stress it enough. We can sit in here and disagree on things, but when we walk out that door, it stays in here. We can, you know, go out there, still be civil, it's this. And as long as we're getting to the same goal and getting to the same direction, that's all that matters, and doing what's best. Anyway, I would like to, I don't know how full we are for the next meeting, where we're at. We're packing up. So maybe we can, because I don't want to push it too far, because if we push it too far discussing what we want to do as far as, you know, events, we start putting whoever's gonna put them together under the gun. But we're June 1st, yeah, we're already, or not June, yeah. So we're, maybe the 2nd, yeah, definitely, can we put it off onto the 15th, put that for a discussion item as far as events? What we plan on doing, if we plan on doing anything.
Sure. I know we had one thing come off that meeting because we had to switch it to May 18th. So if it's okay, I could look to see which one is more full and then let you all know, and then I can stick it on the one that has maybe the least amount of, I mean, I think they both have a lot on them, but we can probably stick it on the one that has the least amount. That work?
Yeah, because I think, yeah, this is true. Well, I'll let it go ahead and look at that, and then if it does look like we're kind of packing up, we could always do it as a work session, because I still think it would be something, we'll probably end up at least an hour on that minimum, my guess is, just, getting ideas and actually trying to work through it. But anyway, go ahead.
Haven't we had some in the past on Saturdays with breakfast or something?
Yeah, well, that's retreats, yeah. Well, and that's usually our goal setting, yeah, that's the thing. I'm not real keen on doing a retreat with Zoom. I want to retreat with everybody there. And, obviously, some people aren't comfortable being in the room, with no mask or anything else. So maybe we wait till we got a good weather and we do it outside, and you can bring your grill and cook for us. So, but, more on that topic later. With that, we'll move on to executive session. Do I have a motion?
I move to move into executive. I move to move into executive session pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-402, parens 4, parens G, for the consideration of any documents protected by the mandatory non-disclosure provisions of the Open Records Act related to compiling a list of finalists, but not a finalist, for the town administrator position, except that records that are work product or part of a deliberative process privilege shall occur in open session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Antonopoulos.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee White. Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Thank you.
And motion carries. Yeah, and the time is now, why is this thing? 8:12, and we'll take about a 5-minute break and reconvene.
Mayor, I think we have a different,
For those of you on Zoom, you'll have to log in to it, the other invite that you got. Okay, just checking, and then we'll get that up and running in just a second here. Thank you.
thanks. And Linda, I believe Jamie Hickey's coming into this executive session, and she will,
Maureen, I can't hardly hear you.
I wonder if somebody has their microphone turned on.
No, it doesn't look like it.
Huh, that's weird, because I was talking earlier on the same microphone. Can you hear me now?
Barely. I'm not sure what's happening. You were fine.
I know.
I can hear you, Maureen.
Will you repeat what she's saying, Solera?